Are you allowed to charge tenants for cleaning when they leave your property at the end of a tenancy? Charging tenants for cleaning when they leave your property at the end of a tenancy. Now I'm going to tell you a story about a friend of mine who's a landlord, and he's got a student HMO property in my local area. It's not managed by my letting agency because my letting agency don't currently do student HMOs yet, but his current letting agent has just cost him a couple of £100. It's not a lot of money, but it's a couple of £100 because they just didn't know the correct legislation. And that really annoys me. And that's why I'm sharing this story, because there are so many letting agencies out there that don't know current legislation, or they're practicing incorrect legislation. Look, I'm not going to share the name of that letting agent, but I hope that this prompts landlords to make sure that their letting agencies know all of the legislation that's required in the industry. And if any letting agencies listen to this or watch this, then I want you to make sure that you know what you need to know to provide the service to your landlords. Because at the moment, there are so many letting agents that are putting the landlords at risk because they don't know 100% of the legislation. So, a friend of mine, I was playing golf with him the other day, and he said to me, are you allowed to charge tenants for cleaning when they leave your property at the end of a tenancy? And I said, yes, absolutely. And he said, oh, because I've just had some students leave my property and it needed a clean because they left it in a bit of a dirty state. And the letting agent said that I wasn't allowed to charge tenants for cleaning. And I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah, exactly that. The letting agent said, I'm not allowed to charge tenants for cleaning. So the letting agent, based on that, gave the tenant back their full deposit, I know, and told the landlord that the landlord has to pay for the clean. Well, that's just incorrect. Now, the first question I asked my friend, and I'm not going to name my friend either, but did you have an inventory showing that the property was clean when they moved in? The answer is yes. And then did they do a follow-up inventory or a checkout inventory when the tenants left to show that it was now requiring a clean because it wasn't in the same state as when they moved in? The answer was yes. So therefore, there is actual evidence signed by the tenants to say that when they moved in it was clean, when they moved out it was dirty. Yes, brilliant. So yes, you can charge the tenant for that clean. And that's the same in student HMOs, it's the same in standard residential properties, all tenancies. You can charge the tenants for cleaning the property if you have proof to say that when they moved in, it was clean. Now, there is also the other side. You can also charge that tenant for cleaning even if you don't have an inventory, if the tenant accepts, yes, I will pay for the clean from my deposit. And you can deduct that from the deposit. That's very fair and very common as well. It's probably one of the most common charges for outgoing tenants. Now, a good letting agent, first of all, would know that. That's one of the most basic practices that a letting agent should follow. But second of all, a good letting agent will be speaking to that tenant, setting the expectation for that tenant when they leave the property and informing them that when you leave the property, it will need professional clean or it will need to be cleaned by you to a professional standard. I don't think that's too much to ask, but for some reason, this letting agent has confused the cost of cleaning with tenant fees. Now, there was a tenant fee ban introduced. You probably have already known about this as a landlord if you've got a good letting agent. You might well have already known about this as well, even if you don't have a letting agent. In a nutshell, you're not allowed to charge tenants fees, except for certain things which I won't go into in this video. But I think that letting agent has just got the two confused, has just assumed that you can't charge the tenants for anything. And that really worries me, because how many of their landlords, and they're not a small agent either, by the way, they're not big, but they're not small. So they must have a good couple of hundred landlords, and it makes me worry for those landlords, how much have they been charging the landlord by giving them that incorrect advice, by telling them that they can't charge the tenants for cleaning and then making the landlords pay? Because look, landlords are not letting agents. Well, some try to be, but that's just a whole nother subject. Landlords are not letting agents. And that means that a lot of landlords rely on the letting agents to know all of the legislation that they have to follow and to know what they can and can't do. Landlords rely on that. So if as a letting agent they don't know, well, what hope has the landlord got? And what other legislation don't they know? That's a big worry for me. First of all, how much have landlords of this letting agent been paying out when they didn't need to? Second of all, what legislation are they not following because they don't know? Legislation changes constantly. There's something like 176 different pieces of legislation that affect landlords. And the problem with that is that now tenants are able to sue their landlords directly. You've probably heard about the Renters Reform Bill. It's a white paper which contains tons of proposals to completely reform the private rented sector. I guarantee half of the letting agents in my city of Portsmouth have not even read that white paper. I have read it, I have analysed it, I have researched it, I've spoken to various key figures about the Renters Reform Bill. So have my team. And we've done that because all of those things that are proposed in that Renters Reform Bill are probably coming in one way or another. So we need to know about that. We as letting agents must know what is coming and what can affect our landlords so that we can put processes, measures, protection in place so that we can do our job and the landlords don't need to worry. That's our job. So it really frustrates me when letting agents don't know this stuff, because it's the landlords that suffer. It's not you, Mr. and Mrs. Letting Agent. You're not paying for the clean. You're not the one that's going to end up in court. It's the landlord. So that really frustrates me because it also gives a bad name to the rest of our industry. It makes landlords that have had a bad experience with a crap letting agent, it makes them feel that all letting agents are crap. So think of this. If you're a letting agent listening to this right now, then you need to know that your job is to know all legislation. That's your job. It's the minimum requirement of you being a letting agent so that you can protect your landlords, protect your tenants, make sure your landlords remain profitable, secure and safe. That's your job. And if you don't know all legislation, and if your team don't know all legislation, then you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't be a letting agent. I will come along. I will buy your company. Hey, let's do that deal. If you are not confident with legislation, you don't want to get involved in all the legislation, let me know. I will buy your company and I will come along and help your landlords and improve the service. That was a good sales pitch. Really good sales pitch. I want to buy more letting agents. I'm just about to complete my 6th letting agent acquisition, so I want to buy more. So let me know if you're a letting agent and you want to talk about selling me your business, selling me your lettings, whatever it might be, let me know. But landlords, if you're worried about your letting agent's practice, like my friend was, he came to me and said, apparently I'm not allowed to charge tenants for cleaning. I was shocked at that advice. All right, it's not the worst case in the world, but it's bad enough for that landlord to then have to spend a couple of £100 on a clean when they didn't have to. You can guarantee the letting agent made a little bit of profit out of that as well. And it's just needless. It could have been avoided. I think in that case, the way he described that to me, that's the tenant's responsibility to pay for that clean. What about you? Have you seen any signs that there are letting agents that just don't know legislation? Now look, I don't want to start hanging letting agents out to dry because there is a lot of legislation and you can't expect a letting agent to know inside and out every single tiny piece of law that there is around the property industry. That's illogical, it's unrealistic, but you would expect a good letting agent to know the majority of everything, and if they don't know something, they would research it first before they give you advice on something they don't know about. Like my letting agency, for an example, every single week we have training on legislation, process, practice, everything to do with lettings and managing rental properties every single week without fail. It's really important. It's half of our job to know exactly what rules and legislation and laws to follow. If other letting agents aren't doing that, then there's something seriously wrong. And here's a fun one for you. Ask your letting agent what HHSRS stands for. Let's see if they know. But anyway, look, I just wanted to bring that story to you for a couple of reasons. First of all, make sure your letting agent knows about legislation, the main areas of legislation that they need to know about. Second of all, if you are worried about it, then I'm not going to try and pinch your business and try and bring you over to my letting agency, but I will give you some advice on any situation that you're currently facing right now. I'll give you the best advice I can give, and I'll help you out for free. Just let me know. If you've got any problems that you've ever faced that you think were wrong, you think were handled wrong by your letting agent, even my letting agency, if you're one of my landlords or you've ever been one of my landlords of my letting agency and you think that you were wronged by my letting agency or something was handled incorrectly, let me know. I will absolutely happily give my best advice that I could possibly give. You've got to get in contact. And if you've got a story about something like this where a letting agent has done something incorrectly, then please let me know so that I can share this stuff. But look, back to the original point. Charging a tenant that's leaving your property for cleaning is allowed. Look, you have to have the right proof and you have to have the right evidence and the right agreements, of course, but it's allowed. What you're not allowed to do in a lot of instances is charge the tenant fees. So if you want to know a bit more about that and what you can and can't charge tenants, then let me know, just contact me. And you know what, you can do that by email, tom@pinkstreet.co.uk. Or you can just search Tom Soane online, you'll find me. Or you can just find me at any of my social media channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all of those. And I will just help you. And if I don't know the answer to something, I will connect you with someone that does. I've got a very, very good legal team. I've got a very, very good financial team. I've got a very, very good team of property brokers that just go out finding buy-to-let properties all day, every day. So if I don't know the answer or I can't help you, I will connect you with the person that can. And all that's for free. I just want to make sure that everybody is safe.